I'm Matthew.
I'm Marty.
I'm Carlos.
And we are the Heroes 3. Welcome to Heroes 3, the bi-weekly podcast where three friends explore the best, worst, and everything in between in the world of Asian cinema. And this week, we are finishing up the year 2025 with our last host picks, with my pick, which is the legendary 1958 Akira Kurosawa film, The Hidden Fortress. Which, if I understand right, Star Wars was a shot-for-shot remake of this movie. Am I correct?
No.
You know what I am excited to get into, though, because the Hidden Fortress is really crucial in George Lucas's development process. And actually, there's some fascinating tidbits of the first treatment before he had written a full screenplay and the documents that he was using to pitch the project to the studios have a hell of a lot to do with the Hidden Fortress. So that's going to be super exciting to get into. But yeah, it is at the same time a possibly kind of like overblown comparison to the finished film.
Yes,
Star
for
Wars.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was a film that I had checked out not too long after we'd started the podcast because I had heard about the movie a lot because whenever, if you're a dork that grew up learning everything you could about Star Wars, then Akira Kurosawa samurai movies came up, and this one specifically did. So I was like, oh, well, we're finally doing an Asian cinema podcast. I should finally check some of this stuff out. So I watched it then, and I really enjoyed it. So I think it was about time.
Yeah. For me, this was one of the Kurosawa films that I was familiar with before the podcast. Actually, thinking back to it, it's surprising to me that I wasn't familiar with Yojimbo, but I had seen this. I mean, of course, Seven Samurai is a big deal, so I watched that. And then I watched Rashomon because of its notoriety, and this film as well. I don't feel like it was because of the Star Wars connection, because I wasn't that connected to things. But I'm, in a lot of ways, Kurosawa to me, even though I really liked Japanese cinema and stuff, I was more of like the shock and awe of things. So Kurosawa always ended up feeling like college homework to me.
Oh, sure. I get that.
Which is, I mean, half true, but also it's like, man, these every time you engage with the movie of his, it's going to be a good time. So, I have a little bit of a history with it, and yeah, I'm really excited to talk about it today.
Do you have any history with it, Marty? Or
yeah, no, it's I can totally relate to what you're saying, Carlos, about, I think especially growing up and hearing Kurosawa's name, something about it being intimidating, maybe even just like the onomatopoeia or like just the sound of the actual surname is like powerful. And I don't know, leaves kind of a mark on you. But I don't know. I mean, really, it's one of those rare artists where you can't say too much. You almost can't overstate the emphasis. And especially when looking at this cluster of absolutely crucial black and white pictures from the 50s. And luckily, we've gotten a chance to cover your Jimbo already, and that's amazing. And I know at some point we'll dive into Seven Samurai, and
we've threatened to do Seven Samurai. It will be a hell of an episode.
And I'm sure Rashomon at some point.
Yeah.
But Hidden Fortress is absolutely part of that crown jewel set in the crown or whatever. And I will have to say, watching it now in like the beautiful restoration that exists, it really almost felt like watching a different film from whenever it was I was first exposed to Hidden Fortress, which I remember not thinking it was like a very junky copy. It was probably like a Criterion DVD or something from back in the day. But yeah, I have some kind of memory of it being like this kind of concerted watch, but really being a movie I would think about a lot, like just throughout my life. I would say revisiting it now, I just found it to be like such a breeze, such a just solid, strong adventure. And yeah, I mean, it sounds silly to say, but it's like hard recommend for the Hidden Fortress. And yeah, I don't know. I think maybe this is a little like cheapening of the whole thing. But you could maybe make some kind of continuum where if you wanted maybe the kind of just like jump in, maybe easiest, most kind of accessible picture, maybe I'd have Yojimbo on that side of it. And then the kind of like concerted buckle in, really give yourself over to the movie and will reward you would be Seven Samurai. And then maybe you put Hidden Fortress somewhere in the middle. And I think that, I don't know, in terms of runtime, it kind of fits that part of the continuum.
Yeah.
And also I think
it's just
I think
a
it
little
is
over 2
just a
hours.
very it's a very engaging story. Like the shape of the story is so strong and sort of hooky. Like you could kind of imagine, retelling it around the campfire, to the best of your recollection and maybe getting some details wrong, but it's still good. It's like the beats are that strong.
Oh, are you talking about Rashomon? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not how I remember it.
Yeah,
Rashomon is a simple story where I was right. Yeah.
Yeah. The couple of things that I actually am thinking about on reflecting on this film, and this past year we've been covering a lot of, I guess we just focused more in on the influence of West and East and how they kind of vibe off of each other. I think that, Matthew, I don't know if you really intended for this to be the way we ended the year, talking directly about this, as we were going to talk about Star Wars, of course. But I think even more so, we can go back before like Star Wars, because the more you dig into Kurosawa, the more you realize that he was very influenced by the works of like John Ford. And
I was going to bring up, I've watched too much John Ford, but I watched Fort Apache before this, because that was like a recommended one.
Yeah.
Also,
it's a good one.
Stagecoach would be a great double feature.
Yeah.
Hidden Fortress.
Yeah. But it was funny watching that movie, because watching it, I was like, that's a shot that's in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like whenever they're going through like this canyon, all of the Apache are like looking down on them with guns. Like that's literally exactly what happens in Tatooine.
Yeah, and I think the simplest way to compare these two films is kind of these direct relationships between certain shots and certain characters. But I think in the grander scheme of things, when you're thinking about the overall influence of an artist with another artist, I think there's a lot more to kind of talk about when it comes to Kurosawa and Ford, and even the title of this film. Totally. So the Hidden Fortress is the title, but the Japanese title is basically like Three Villains of the Hidden Fortress. And he's name-checked Three Bad Men, which is 1926 film by John Ford right there.
Oh,
so
cool.
It's kind of interesting to stop and think about things like that. And, we're talking about wipes from transitions, and we're talking about, droids and the characters we see here. But I think it's really fun to think about the kind of overall influence between West and East. And I think this is actually kind of like the perfect way to close out our year with the Hidden Fortress. So, I'm really thankful for that. But the other thing I was thinking about... Yeah, we'll leave it at. But there's so many times when we don't have stuff intentional that just kind of work out so well for the podcast, and I think this is really fun. But the other thing I was thinking about when taking notes this time for this film is the influence of cinema on video games. And like this movie to me is just like such a video game like blueprint. And it
totally is. Like
I wish
you have to go, you're behind enemy lines and you have to go from one territory to the other, and there's different enemies you're going to face in different locations. You
gain party members, you lose party members, you have a goal, and there's the drama of weaving between all of that. And I just think that I do wish that video games would strive to be more like stuff like this. I think just like with movies in general too, everything becomes more complicated, and there has to be, I guess, either superficial meaning or, deeper meaning to certain things. And the things I really enjoy about this movie are how it's pretty simple in how it's all laid out. But when you get to these beats that are kind of maybe more emotional or more interesting character-wise, they feel stronger in something like this than compared to anything that I've seen, lately. So it is like a college class, because I do feel like there's so many different like layers that you could peel apart when it comes to this movie. And yeah, we're not even maybe talking about like the highest of highs when it comes to Kurosawa, but I still think that the craft and the love behind the camera is so strong that there's so much to enjoy with this movie.
No, absolutely. And another thing that was really hitting me, and I so agree with how you were kind of describing. I mean, I think both John Ford and Kurosawa's work at this time, where it's just there's such clarity to it. And I kind of wonder if, I mean, even in the 1950s, you're just not that far removed from the birth of cinema. And you have the sense most of the time when engaging, at least with the really great examples from that period and earlier, that most projects only get on their feet because they're conceived as movie projects, and it's a different conversation, I think, in the kind of like postmodern 2020s media landscape, where it's almost as though a lot of the way we construct media and we expect to engage with it kind of goes without saying, but maybe it should go with some saying, like maybe this project doesn't make as much sense as a movie medium piece versus a short story or something like that. And yeah, I think Hidden Fortress is a great example where it's like there's such clarity to the plot and such gorgeous visual composition and such engaging and striking motifs that you end up getting so much out of that running time, like 2 hours and 10 minutes or whatever. And yeah, it is funny how so often in a lot of modern movies that we're working through, it seems like it's such a struggle to get to this sweet spot where it's like, oh, this is a little too thin, or it's like, oh, this is a little too heavy-handed or preachy. And I don't know, maybe we're all confusing ourselves a little too much, and maybe it is kind of a simpler question of like, do you have this almost kind of like fairy tale story of like 7 to 9 beats, and can you find the most compelling people to stand in front of the camera and act this out? And that's absolutely what we've got here.
Yeah,
Totally.
It's almost like you'll get to a point with media. It feels like a crest and maybe a reset point, or a crest and a reset point. And I feel like we haven't gotten to a reset point. I feel like things are just getting a little too mushy. And I don't know what that means.
Especially when you get that kind of phenomenon. It's like, oh, well, I've seen this kind of a thing in another movie that saw it in another movie that saw it in another movie. And,
yeah.
And here it just feels like you're dealing with a much simpler menu and a really confident cook who knows what he wants to do with those ingredients.
Yeah, like I guess to think of like video games again, I think of like Final Fantasy on the NES, like the original game.
Yep.
It's a flawed game, but there's something really enjoyable to me about the simplicity of like the story beats.
Totally.
You just kind of get these kind of, they're almost like chapters that you follow through the game, or I guess like A Link to the Past. You get a little segment where you have a clear goal and you're going to do this, this, and this. You do that, and that kind of closes a chapter, and then it moves you to the next set of goals, and they increase as you're getting towards the end of the game. Or even like Final Fantasy.
And you're engaging with these very like readable sort of metaphors.
Yeah.
And there is something arguably sort of strange about what happens when you jump forward 20 years in time and you've made all those like metaphors sacred. And it's like, well, this is a currency that operates this way. It's like, well, no, it was just like a cute little circle because you could read a circle. Like I don't know. And anyways, I think it's all hopefully just a testament to the power and the beauty and being able to go back to great, classic pieces of art. And also it's like, I'm not going to weigh us all down, but I think a lot of us are living through a pretty heavy year in in a lot of different ways. And honestly, I just felt so lucky to be watching this movie this week and to have a chance to talk about it, and that the movie is so wonderfully preserved, and we probably get to watch it in a more vivid and kind of beautiful way than maybe anyone ever did.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
Kurosawa
sure.
probably never saw it.
I was
going
gonna
to
say George Lucas might have not seen it
Oh,
this clear, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
And he would have been really proud of the focus pulling, because this thing is sharp. It's so stunning.
It
and
is. That was
beautiful.
a thing that stood out to me, was that like a lot of like the actors in it and stuff, it's like they're, you know, like I can, this sounds dumb, but like I can truly see the actor in it, you know, like
Right,
you know,
right.
we watch other movies where it's like, oh, that looks like this other guy, like that just, you know, this was just a guy. It's, I heard someone on a podcast once describe it, but they were talking about watching like a silent film from like the 20s that was like really well maintained and like really sharp. And they said it was like looking at ghosts, because it's like you're looking at these real people, and like you think in your head of an old movie and the actors in it as just the guy in the old movie, but whenever you get to see it in that clarity, it's like, oh no, that really was a person who really is acting. Like, we treat these things as sacred, and you know, maybe we should, but like this was a movie that was made to, you know, to make a point or to be entertaining or whatever. You know, we can't spend too much time getting bogged down in the, I guess, not theatricality, but like the seriousness of it.
Yeah, totally.
And that's important with this movie, because this is a fun movie. This movie's fun as hell.
Dude, so fun. And just,
like it's you know, it's about these two kind of losers that are kind of shitty people, kind of getting caught up in a world that is so different from their own, and you know, going through all these different wacky scenarios. And genuinely is funny. Like, there's some really good parts that made me laugh. Not just homework.
And also, I really think most modern audiences would be very gripped by this, and I don't think you're gonna have much of the phenomenon like, yeah, been here, done that. Like, I know all of these moves. I don't know. I think like a really great fairy tale, it's just like these are really strong like story progressions, and you have some of those fascinating actors in front of you, and the compositions are beautiful. And also, and arguably that like this could stick to the reputation a little bit more of Hidden Fortress, I think, but you have incredible large scale, huge amounts of extras.
Oh my God, there's so many extras.
Like really easygoing single takes that like navigate you through some of these like very large set pieces where the grandiosity is like not the point, which is like, I don't know, the best kind of feeling, because it's like it's like, oh yeah, this, you know, Legion just happens to be here, and we just happen to have the camera following our actors. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's truly a stunning movie in sections, and I think it's possible. Like, the only reason maybe its reputation might set it slightly underneath some of the other films we've been talking about, I think, is probably because it goes down so easy, you know.
It's not like it is kind of an epic, but it's definitely not as epic as like Seven Samurai, or as like super creative in its approach like Rashomon.
Yeah, and I also think that, you know, what we're dealing with are kind of like drops of historical fact, but overall the story is a made up story, you know, and I think maybe
and sort of a timeless kind of idea.
So that I like what you're saying, Marty. Maybe that does kind of, I guess, take away something, because like in these other films, you can place them in an exact point in time, and there's kind of even if it's a fictional tale, it's kind of tied to a history that people kind of hold kind of as this mythical time, you know. And here you're kind of making a fantasy story out of a historical period. I also like how you're saying the scale of this is so huge, and this is before Yojimbo, which has a much smaller scale, and that being like the kind of the bigger hit for him is kind of interesting to think about. But good points.
Well, why don't we get into some more specifics to actually talk about this movie? Do we want to do Back to the VHS, or we just want to kind of dive into it?
I can run us through the plot, and we can just kind of like vibe with the story.
Like that. Yeah,
because we could definitely get bogged down with details. But
we're talking about a little over 2 hours, but this story starts off with two goofs basically. We don't know their names at first, but we come to know them as Matashichi and Tahei, and I really enjoy how this film kind of plucks you into and drops you into the aftermath of like a major battle, and we're in the feudal era, the Sengoku Jidai, where anybody can get kind of caught up in the thralls of war, because people are trying to take land and take power. But we're focused on the lowest of the low here. These are like the two kind of weasels that are really getting sucked into war out of greed. And you see them barely surviving here. And they kind of get sucked into the drama again. And we see them get kind of pulled apart and rejoined together. And against all odds, they continuously survive. You'll see death and destruction all around them. But as they're making their way, they just by chance encounter some gold. And this gold gives them dollar signs in their eyes. And what you're understanding is that there's the Akizuki clan is a clan that's kind of been dismantled, and there's a kind of a secret resistance that's trying to pull back together. And what you find out is that there's a third main character played by Toshiro Mifune, and he's pretty mysterious at first, but he's commanding, and he puts them to work, and basically is luring them with the riches that they found. And what you end up finding out is that he's a general for the Akizuki clan, and they're trying to make their way back to Hanayama, a different countryside or prefecture, I guess. And just by his chance meeting with these two men, they kind of give him the seeds of the plan to get to this place. And he's still kind of leading them through without giving them all the information they need. And they encounter a woman, and this mysterious woman is secretly the princess for the Akizuki clan. And he is her guardian, and they have kind of a secret resistance hiding behind a waterfall, which I love. And they make a plan to take this gold that they have trapped within these wooden like shambles, and make their way unassumingly into the other countryside. And through ups and downs, they do end up successful. They, like I said, they gather a party member, they lose party members, people are forced into battle, and even our Toshiro Mifune character, Makabe Rokurota, he ends up having a duel with another general that they seem to have some past, and they're kind of like rivals, and he defeats this man. And that defeat becomes a physical and a metaphysical scar on him. And as they just are on the cusp of making their way back, this whole group is captured, and he ends up becoming, I mean, for lack of a better term, a Darth Vader in their path. And he does end up seeing the light, and they make their way, and they are victorious. They barely make it back alive, and they end up back where they want to be with their riches. And these two unassuming goofs have continuously cause trouble for themselves and for everyone around them, but they do also survive, and they're rewarded with a little treasure, and we see who these people really are, and they're
sort of fully revealed.
their full regalia. And those are the that's the simplest way to say what we go through.
Dude, that was like perfectly done.
No,
That's
good.
amazing.
Thanks. It's a good one.
Guess what? Akira Kurosawa, pretty good director.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, it's I like that you mentioned video games, because the whole like having a duel with your respectable rival and stuff is very anime.
Yeah.
And then like them later becoming like a friend and a party member is like that's such a like a Final Fantasy kind of beat.
Yeah.
Or like a Magnus and Chrono Trigger or something.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention too is that what I really think is interesting about the world that we're in is because of this like feudal era. It seems like it's almost like a post-apocalyptic setting where anything can actually like be like a threat to your life. And if you say the wrong thing to the wrong person, you'll die, or if you end up in the wrong prairie or valley, you'll be killed by soldiers. And I think it's a bit different than what you'd expect from like wuxia, where like we talk about the jianghu, where they have like their own set of rules. It doesn't seem like it's rules. It seems like we're really seeing the class system at work here, where if you're a samurai, you can get away with a lot more. So yeah, we even have a moment.
Also, I think like the heroic values, especially of Hidden Fortress, are these kind of street smarts that Mifune's character is just always has at the ready, and it's and I don't know. That's why I love that kind of like fable quality of it, because it's maybe even almost attempting to kind of instruct how to stay cool under pressure, how to adapt to increasingly unfolding difficult situations. So it's not about kind of memorizing the code and the manners properly. It really is about being clever and courageous. And I don't know, as moviegoers, I think we fall in love with that kind of thing.
Yeah, and also like the opposite side of that, where you've got Tahei and Matashichi. They're the opposite, where
it's
they
like
don't,
Dumb and Dumber kind of in the middle of the movie.
You get the sense that they don't really have much honor. They're more motivated by like greed and fear, but at the same time, when push comes to shove and they have to either maybe get to the point where they're gonna steal something from a dead body or something, they're not willing to do it. You can tell that there's a little bit of good in them still. And I think that that's kind of this interesting thread that pulls you through the movie, because their dumb luck really is what puts them in the line of sight of Rokurota, Toshiro Mifune's character. And you see this moment when they first meet. They're rejoicing because they found some gold, but then they're fighting over the gold. And then
it's so funny that they literally are like, their best friends. They're like, we need to stick together, we're friends. And the instant they see gold, they start fighting each other.
I mean, up into the bitter end, I mean, you see just like how tenuous this relationship is. I mean, and it is also like you were saying earlier, Matthew, like it is just funny, it's like it's not
it's like
entirely like
or something.
biting satire.
Exactly. And so then when Toshiro Mifune is thrown into the mix, you can tell that he's trying to get information from them, but what you find out even a bit later is, if he had heard that they were maybe not in line with what he wanted to do, he would have just killed them.
I love that.
It's like wild. It's like, oh man. But I think it's really cool how all of these characters kind of influence each other. And then when you also have Misa Uehara's princess Yukihime, when she shows up, very knowingly, when she encounters the two goons right away, it's like a silent encounter. And I think that that's really important, because when they do finally end up in the same party, she's pretending she's a mute. They've decided that in order to protect her, she's going to have to be quiet, because even just how she talks will reveal her her status in this classist system.
Which
There's yeah.
it's worth noting, the way that she talks is kind of nuts. Like she kind of always sounds like she's like yelling or angry or something.
She's so full of fun. It's this great combination because anything she speaks to basically comes from this incredibly caring, moral, like protect others point of view, but she only speaks in like the most fiery tongue, and she's like so angry, and it's, I don't know, it's just a really fascinating character. And I think you get a lot of moments in the Hidden Fortress of like a special kind of movie magic when watching something from long before your time, where it's like ahead of you and like a little hipper and sharper and maybe even a little more modern than you might have kind of assumed. And there's one beat especially that jumps out to me like that, and it's when Mifune's character is trying to convince her of like acting as a mute, and he's doing this very kind of obvious reverse psychology, and you can just imagine most like of the modern audience being like, oh, like actually liking the scene, but like getting, like totally getting it. It's like, oh, he's doing this reverse psychology. And then she has this like switch basically of bamboo or whatever, and she almost like hits him with it, and she's basically says like, don't try that reverse psychology on me. And I don't know, it's just to feel like the movie is like reaching out over time and grabbing you. And I don't know, I think especially for folks maybe that even aren't all that versed in Japanese cinema of this period, like I think they're going to be totally transfixed by Uehara as the princess here. She's just so, I won't say the camera loves her, like the camera loves and fears her.
Because the camera's afraid of her.
Yeah.
She's very intense.
And I love especially when we first get a sense of their relationship, her and Mifune's character, and Kurosawa turns to this sort of like head-on camera as well as like we're seeing them converse, and to have both of them back to back staring down the camera lens at you, it's something, man. Wow.
Yeah, and I also really enjoy how what you're saying about this kind of, if you're used to watching like a period film or a samurai movie, or this like if you're used to like feudal era kind of stuff, you kind of expect, you know, someone in her position to really be bowing down to tradition.
Yeah.
But the fact that she's such kind of a tomboy, kind of firecracker, she's actually like the most progressive kind of character you'd ever see in something like this, where she is kind of upset at the kind of strict traditions that are put into place. So we get to this point when you're finally revealing who these characters are. The reason is that Matashichi has run off to kind of basically tell like the village officers that this princess is among them so they can get a reward. But he comes back telling them that not only was he not able to do it, but they've already gotten the princess and she's been beheaded. And this is like such a moment of pause for Toshiro Mifune's Rokurota character. He then goes to this secret base and basically reveals everything. And it's such a strong scene.
And that is the hidden fortress, effectively, of the title of the movie.
Yeah.
I also love that. It's like a very early concept that then we basically burns down and we abandon.
Right. Her reaction to hearing this news is one of anger and disappointment, because she understands that there was a decoy princess that has now been killed,
which was Rokurota's own sister.
Yeah, and he's put into the position of this kind of loyal kind of samurai general, that he understands this is the roles that we have to follow, and she's like shaming him for not crying, and that's when you kind of get the reveal of what her history is.
And she says like, what's the difference between me and her?
Yeah,
which is a very 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 modern thing to say.
Yeah,
which
completely.
is cool.
Yeah, and but at the same time, she's also bearing the weight of this whole country, and I guess in a Princess Leia-ish way, she's like one of the last survivors that has to kind of bear the burden to fight this resistance. And I like that she has her moment too, where she's standing up over the valley below, and she's shedding tears privately, and it's a pretty strong scene. And actually, yeah, we should mention the music too. This is a score by Masaru Sato, who I mean, for me, so he did Yojimbo. We talked about that, but also Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla is Masaru Sato's score. And when I think of his work, on Godzilla,
I mean, that's a sick movie. So
yeah, but his Godzilla material is more of the goofy stuff, so it's kind of fun for me to think about that too.
Yeah, totally. And he also I think he scored High and Low also, which was
he was a frequent collaborator with Kurosawa. So yeah, this is another one of these cases where, like Takashi Shimura, how for me I always thought of him being in Godzilla stuff, like that's who I think of, but they actually were much more involved with Kurosawa's work.
yeah
And he does even show up here in this scene. He's like the elder. He's one of the kind of left behinds when they
one of the last
leave on their journey.
Survivors of the tribe. And it's actually I'll just sort of pop in here. It's probably a good time as any, just to touch briefly, and then I think we can probably even walk away from it as far as George Lucas and the Star Wars connection. And actually, our good friends Stephen and Brian Kelly and we've banked a series of episodes actually about like a close read of the Star Wars screenplay, and leading up to that, we were kind of digging into George Lucas's initial story treatment, which is part of what he was shopping around to the studios when trying to get the initial green light. And we know that he became a huge fan of Kurosawa during that kind of college age and as part of his kind of film school education. And we also know from his own lips at the time and reports from a lot of his friends and collaborators that actually, cracking the beat by beat story of Star Wars was a real challenge for him, that he had a few of these like set pieces in his mind that were really striking kind of from the onset. But what you tend to see in like draft to draft is that some of the details will sort of like radically change. And what is extremely fascinating, and someone had pointed this out to me years ago and kind of rocked my world, but in that story treatment, there's this section that kind of maps fairly well to, say, the final opening crawl of Star Wars. And I'll just read an excerpt from that for you right now. So it reads, "It is the 33rd century, a period of civil wars in the galaxy. A rebel princess with her family, her retainers, and the clan treasure is being pursued. If they can cross territory controlled by the Empire and reach a friendly planet, they will be saved. The sovereign," and the sovereign isn't capital S, "knows this and posts a reward for the capture of the princess." Well, an early Lucas biographer actually found that there was this, I think, 1960s era Kurosawa biography that George Lucas apparently had. And in that biography, there are these little plot summary descriptions of the different Kurosawa films. And this is how that text reads for The Hidden Fortress. It is the 16th century, a period of civil wars. A princess with her family, her retainers, and the clan treasure is being pursued. If they can cross enemy territory and reach a friendly province, they will be saved. The enemy knows this and posts a reward for the capture of the princess. And then what I will say is overall that first treatment doesn't really contain a character that we would recognize as Luke Skywalker. The kind of central male character is a very Mifune-like kind of grizzled person that you could squint and imagine evolving into Obi-Wan Kenobi over time. And the princess is with them, and these two bureaucrats, which become the droids, are there. And then eventually what happens, there's this really stunning moment in the treatment where this gang ends up coming across this old temple, and there are these little boys in the temple that are described as little rebels. And the gang ends up kind of like lodging there. And the next morning, the kind of Mifune character goes out with one of the boys who isn't even named, just mentions like, goes into town with one of the boys. And then they kind of walk into what ends up being like this cantina scene. And in that cantina scene ends up being like beat for beat, almost like the finished product of Star Wars.
Oh, cool.
And it's really amazing. Like, you kind of get chills reading it, because you almost are seeing this like creative spark happen in front of you, where it's like, oh, wait a second, like this boy being here and the guy protecting the boy in the bar, that's really special. Who's this boy? Maybe.
Yeah. Right.
And so all that is to say that like it clearly was an incredible aid in Lucas's process as he's trying to crack this story and trying to kind of organize all of these like wild creative thoughts that he had into a document that he can kind of present to actual studio executives. But what's also wild is Fox ends up greenlighting it, and when he finishes like the first draft of the screenplay, it's almost nothing like the treatment.
Yeah.
And
Very
then
different.
and then the next draft is so different from the prior draft. So it's in the end, I think it's much more fair to say that there are all kinds of American Hollywood and comic book references in Star Wars that are just as significant as anything from the Hidden Fortress or from Kurosawa. But it does factor, I think, really highly in just the origins of this thing. And I think you could even argue it's like without the Hidden Fortress and this connection to Kurosawa, it does seem like the kind of chain of events would have led us to a very different place.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting thing to think about, and as the growth of an artist. I mentioned Final Fantasy, right? Final Fantasy on Nintendo is basically a ripoff of Dragon Quest. And honestly, like the early Square games that you see are like Rad Racer, that's just like Outrun. 3D World Runner is just a ripoff of Space Harrier. But, like after they do something like this, then I don't know, what you're mentioning about maybe the script changing so much. You gotta have like a friend that kind of likes the same things that you like, but is like one step away that can be like, hey, you should change that. Like, I know why you put that in because of this and this and this, and somebody's gonna know. So maybe why don't you squeeze a bit more creativity out of it and make it something of your own? And that's part of the art process too. Maybe sometimes it gets a little too close to a published product. So then you're like, but whenever, me as a kid, the first drawings that I did were like, Garfield or a dinosaur in zoo books or something. So you always got to start from somewhere.
You do. Yeah. And I think there really is so much value in just trying to make something that's exactly the same as someone else.
Oh yeah.
Like as a starting point, because that's like, because then you understand, okay, why did they make this decision? Why did they shoot this scene like this? Or I know whenever I was learning programming, one of the things I did was I tried to recreate like the very first screen of Golden Axe, because I just wanted to figure out like how did they like, how do I get jumping? How do I make a combo system? How do I make enemy AI? Like, so I just, found rip sprites and stuff and made it, and it's terrible, but I learned a lot by doing it. So
Or like, people making like a note, like recreating a song, notating a song, like you're pulling it apart,
sure.
you're appreciating what it is, and then you're going to use that to kind of bolster your creative skills. Yeah, it's really interesting.
And it shows the value in making a second draft.
Yeah.
Don't kill your darlings.
Totally.
Don't be afraid to throw
also
it
the
out
kind of thing that can
over and over.
happen is like it ends up being you, and it ends up being somewhat original, something that never has exactly existed before, just by nature of your fingerprints touching it. Especially it's like when you're trying to finish something, I mean, it is really wild what happens when it's like when something become like the rubber has to hit some road, this thing has to become real, and you find that you make all kinds of changes and adjustments because the straight up copy isn't going to work. Yeah, I don't know. It's why. And in the case of Star Wars, I mean, crucial kind of story related development is still happening as it's being edited, and that's part of the exciting story of how that movie was made. But yeah, I don't know. I just love what emerges as we keep just touching on movie after movie in the podcast, which is like there's this really unspoken conversation through film that is going on, with different filmmakers and creative people around the world, and then people that are watching things in different eras and incorporating that into what they like and who they are. And yeah, I don't know. I love that so far. It's like we keep going back, and it's clear that you'd never be able to actually hit day one,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, even the idea that it's for Kurosawa, he's thinking back to old silent pictures. And for those silent film directors, they were thinking about something,
Yeah. Yeah.
like a play that they saw as a child, whatever.
This shit gets me so hype.
For real.
Dude, I get so excited thinking about that.
So good.
And I love when, I'm talking to people and then they'll bring up something okay, just recently we have this Kill Bill whole bloody affair. So people start talking about how much they love Kill Bill and how much they either like the first one or they don't like the second one.
I did love that whenever you told us you were watching it, you were going to see Kill Bill, the whole thingy.
Yeah.
Which I can't not hear that in my head talking about it now. But anyways, continue.
But, this is another chance for people to kind of dig into what makes something great. And, some people, they wear that stuff on their sleeve when they make something. Some people, it's more deep-seated. But whether you like Tarantino or not, this is another chance for me to tell you about all the things you might already like and you don't even know yet. So it's really fun when I hear people say hey, I spent 4 hours in the theater to watch Kill Bill, and I was like, all right, let's talk more.
Kill Bill especially has this quality of it feels like a, I don't know, concierge at a hotel or whatever, but it has Quentin's, okay, you're going to want to get 2 blocks down. But because it's opening the door, you can clearly, I think anyone would be able to tell. It's okay, I don't know who this person is, but they're clearly important. And then someone in the theater is going to be like, oh, that's that's Gordon Liu. And here's why he's important. It's check this out,
I actually had
Chiba. It's
I had a moment where, because there's an intermission, and it was actually a weird intermission where it just said intermission and it was completely silent.
Wow.
It didn't even have a timer or whatever, but I was like, whatever. I left the theater and I was coming back and there was 2 dudes talking, and I could tell by their conversation that they hadn't seen it before. This was their first time watching it.
Wow.
So we were talking a little bit about it, and I was basically kind of telling them up to that point what I'd seen, what was in the original cut, and what was kind of new. And they really liked hearing that. So I thought that was damn, that's crazy. These dudes went to see 4 hours of a movie they'd never seen before.
So would you say each half is longer than the movies we know?
Well, there's actually, I mean, I don't know if you want me to get into it too much, but there's not that much extra. There's
sure.
There's one new animated sequence. There's tweaks to volume 1. that I think you'd probably expect, like the crazy 88
the color,
sequences in
yeah.
color and stuff like that. But outside of that, there's not a lot of meat and potatoes that are missing from the cuts we've already seen.
Cool.
Did the phrase 36 Chamber of Shaolin ever leave or Lady Snowblood ever leave your lips in this
Did
experience?
they?
I'm asking if
Oh,
they
you're
did.
asking. I didn't start to get into like
Okay.
teaching people about stuff.
Or Broken
but it
Oath,
was
like,
kind of fun
people
just
don't bring
talking.
up Broken Oath enough.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's
just
like there's a lot of direct nods to Broken, which like we talked about back.
Yeah.
Back
Oh
in
yeah.
the day. But
Mm-hmm. But anyways, yeah. This
Yeah,
I knew we were gonna
anyways.
get into some tangents
Yeah.
today. But
Oh yeah, no,
yeah.
it's all good.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I was about to say, what else we want to talk about with this movie?
Well, I mean, we've talked about some of the camera work, but I really do want to talk about the locations because, like,
yeah,
we get some beautiful
just
sets in
amassing
this film,
so many
and
extras,
just
and
like amazing vistas that we see. Horai Gorge is a location that you'll see. It's in the Hyogo Prefecture, and that the scenes at the beginning of this film where you've got Matashichi and Tahe kind of clawing up a side of a mountain
for
and
like
just,
5 full minutes.
Yeah, just all this like gravel and stuff like all around them. There's such a visceral thing, and the idea that they reach that peak and you can see the hidden fortress like kind of entryways below it, and then the valley that you see beyond that, and they've strategically picked this location because they can see like basically the land that they want to reclaim. It's really cool to me. And then as these guys set off on their journey, Rokurota, he steals some horses to help them carry their gold haul, which is all in sticks. And they're making their way through forests and valleys and prairies, and it's always interesting, it's always curious. I just really enjoyed, almost, I mean, you can't really map it out, but it just almost kind of seeing their progression in this journey. And as they make their way, they will get to these like checkpoints. You'll see like a wooden bridge that they have to survey, or a river that they have to wade through, and that leads us to like these enemy soldiers. And like I mentioned before, he's got this rival that he fights against, and they're kind of camped out in this like makeshift base. And that's really cool. The way that they set up this duel is Hyoe, he like says we should fight with spears. So you've got this really awesome moment where Rokurota is basically picking his spear that he's going to use. So you have this kind of circle around them, and
it's all in this super patient single take too.
He grabs and tests like 3 spears, and as he's making every movement, you see that everybody is on edge. They understand. Maybe they don't know who he is, but they understand based on their leader's reaction that this is somebody that they should be watchful of. And that plays out. They use basically, I mean, it's the most involved like fight choreography that we'll see in this film, and you don't really get like kind of a chambara, specifically a chambara feel from it, because they're fighting with spears, but there's still that same kind of energy. And I love that they're basically tearing up these tarps and using like these kind of practice boards as like defensive like shields, and it really like takes place through that whole like courtyard and beyond. And in the end, Rokurota does kind of, he basically breaks the spear of Tadakoro's. I mean, his spear is broken, and he wins this match, and he makes a surprising choice, and he just lets him live. He says, "I'll see you again." And that's the point of contention
with
between
that, like,
these
signature, like charming, like rascal smile that he has.
Yep.
Great. And I love that. Yeah, Kurosawa pushes in a little closer than you might expect during this spear fight, and really finds some interesting angles, especially as the guys get like really close. As the kind of like brunt of their spears are locked together. It's really striking sequence. And then is that Susumu Fujita? Is that the actor's name?
Yeah.
I think.
Yep.
Gosh, just another just incredibly interesting face. Like
Mhm.
the camera's just kind of fascinated with him,
And this short, stocky look that is really kind of cool.
Totally.
Yeah.
You really could picture like a 16-bit era sprite made out of
Yeah, nice.
Fujita here. And also it's like you come to find out that it's like Kurosawa's maybe kind of lingering on his face for a reason. It's sort of like, drill this into your mind, like don't forget it. Because ultimately in the end of the film, like you're going to contrast that with this kind of horrifically scarred face of the man.
Yeah.
It's so great.
The other thing I wanted to mention too is like, on their journey, you've got these moments where Tahei and Matashichi are basically trying to weasel out or trying to run away with their own kind of stash. And each of these times turns into these interesting things. You have this first time, they're trying to steal these horses away while Rokurota runs off to do some surveying, and you have an interaction between them and the young girl Yukihime. She's mute, as we've said, and Tahei's like, "Oh, you idiot! Like you can say whatever you want. She's mute. That means she's deaf.
That means that she's deaf too."
Wait a second, what? But she's forced to kind of just sit there and deal with it because she doesn't want to blow her cover. And they take the horses away, and of course their whole situation blows up in their face, and they have to make their way back. And ultimately, they're looking to Rokurota for survival as well, because he's a very formidable warrior. And these couple of times they get checked. The other time later on is they see this caravan of these chanting villagers, and
the fire festival.
Yeah, this is a fire festival, and they see that everybody's carrying wood, so they're like, let's sneak on to this caravan and we'll be able to transport the wood. And of course, they kind of get sucked into it, but at the same time, you've got these soldiers that are also on the lookout, and they know that wood is something that they're trying to find, because by now they've gotten this information out of the last survivors of the hidden fortress that they've destroyed. And so they're playing it careful at the fire festival, but they get wrapped into this kind of traditional dance, and it's a really exciting thing for the princess, who's always kind of
she really kind of comes alive under the fire.
Yeah, so it's really kind of a cool set piece in itself, and
it cracks me up whenever you see Tahei and Matashichi dancing away, but they have like this really sad look on their face because they're burning what's in the gold.
Yeah, they've been forced to kind of toss their gold into the fire. And
there's more of those, like, street smarts of Rokurota, because it's and earlier when they're in the village, he's like, no, you just leave it out in the open. Like he's this very shrewd judge of human nature and knows, like, basically don't create ripples in the water. That's what they'll notice,
Mm-hmm.
And it's very similar here at the fire festival. It's like, to resist it he tries, but then once it crosses this line where it would be like conspicuous, he just kind of accepts it. And gosh, I just love that edit to the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
The festival is over and they're just sifting through the ashes. That also feels like an extremely modern beat somehow.
And whenever they say like, well, we can't carry that much more, so we'll have to carry it. And the two greedy guys are like, I can carry more.
Yeah. And they're over. Like, if it was a video game, they wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, they're over encumbered.
Yeah, so their armor would be too heavy.
Travel.
Yep. And then they get kind of sucked into another dangerous situation where two guards notice them and they chase them back, and Rokurota basically takes them as hostages. Now, hey, these two guards have been disarmed. Now you're going to carry the gold with us. And that kind of pushes us into this finale where they're getting so close to this border that they've been striving to get to, that right at the point of being there, they get captured by the soldiers. And then they're basically everything's there's no secrets now. They know this is a princess.
Right.
They know that they've got the gold that they've been looking for, and they're tied up and waiting for their punishment. And we see, yes, like you mentioned, Marty, Tadakoro shows up again, and the way that he's revealed is so dramatic. He's covered in shadow. He's talking to Rokurota, and as he leans forward, you see that now he has a huge scar on his face, and that the lord of his army shamed him and gave him this scar and beat him in front of his men. But at the same time, you've got Yukihime. She's basically thanking Rokurota for this adventure that they've been on.
Yeah,
and she says, yeah, that the fire festival was a specifically impressionable moment for her, and she's so thankful that she was able to live amongst the people and see the world through normal eyes. And she sings.
This is one of these compositions you hang on your wall. The camera's completely locked off, and yeah, it's so quiet and kind of painterly almost.
Yeah,
this is apparently, according to Wikipedia at least, this is the first Toho scope, the first widescreen Kurosawa film, and he uses every inch of the frame.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said earlier, you could almost have a whole course on just the camera work in this film, and the staging of cameras, the staging of locations, and all that. But the other thing that we should say too is, I don't know if we've mentioned this, but Misa Uehara, the lady playing Yukihime, this was her first role. She was found in like a casting call of like over 4,000 actors, and they were taken by her looks, and she kills it here.
Insane.
I did read that one of the reasons she is mute was maybe to kind of help soften her load acting wise in the movie, but I think I love her character. She's probably brilliant. The standout for me, so complex and having to deal with so many different emotions, and just being able to carry these really powerful moments like this. She kills it. And I should also mention there's a film that is basically the creation of Japan. It's kind of like the Ten Commandments, but for Japan, and it's called The Three Treasures, and it's by Hiroshi Inagaki, and Toshiro Mifune and Uehara, they star in that as well, and he plays Susanoo, and she plays Kushinada Hime. So the little boy and the 8-headed dragon, he's Susanoo, and she's the princess that he's fighting, the Orochi. Yeah, so they play those characters in that film, which is really fun. And also tying to that is, I did read that Eiji Tsuburaya does effects on this film, but I couldn't confirm what he handled. But there are a couple of moments. There's like there's a shot of them,
the smoke of the fortress through the
there's definitely that. But I was thinking there's like kind of a composite shot of them like sleeping like at night, like right before the finale of the film, where you have Toshiro Mifune standing up and there's like a moonlit sky. And then there's also there are guns in this movie, so there's moments towards the end of the film where they're dodging bullets. Yeah, and there's like bullets hitting like the environment around them, so I could see that being part of that. But Eiji Tsuburaya also did the effects for the Three Treasures as well.
Nice, that's cool. But yeah, the ending is great, where we get to see like in their full regalia. We get to kind of like finally see who they really are, before our duo gets a little bit of money and finally aren't greedy about it.
And you just close the loop on the film.
Yeah, so exactly.
Poetically, with these two characters, and you do feel that like kind of that there's some kind of moral order play. Like, okay, they're responsible for a lot of harm and a lot of shenanigans and a lot of, they're not ethical heroes or something. But it feels like they get kind of their just desserts. It's like, okay, you can't get any gold, but you get some kind of acknowledgement and treasure, and then you're back out on the street again. And
I like that they don't have like a real heroic arc. You don't have a moment in the movie where like, I'm good now. I feel like they've true to themselves the whole way through. But like I said earlier, there's still a little bit of good in there. They do definitely care for each other, and fate brings them back together so many times. It's just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of sweet in a way. And I like that they're still kind of bickering with each other, but it's kind of like this playful. They're not wearing like tuxedos at the end of the movie. You know, they're not like, they didn't like, you know, save a baby or anything. They're still who they are. But it's
it's this great kind of device that feels almost slightly meta, again, slightly contemporary, that even though this story is going to feature these legendary heroes, that's not the lens. Like, the lens are these bumbling, imperfect guys. And there's something about that is just, I don't know, so much more interesting, I think, maybe than the kind of straight read. And Kurosawa gets to kind of have it both ways. And I just love that.
Yeah, me too.
And to bring it back to George Lucas, that's what he talks about in a little featurette on the Criterion DVD or Blu-ray, something like that, talking about the Hidden Fortress. He says that was the big influence for him on Hidden Fortress on Star Wars, was for the main perspective of the story is through C-3PO and R2-D2, these kind of lowly droids, instead of it focusing immediately on the princess and royalty and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Nice.
You had a final thought, Carlos, or are we going to finish it?
Yeah, so there is a 2008 remake of this. It's called Hidden Fortress: The Last Princess. I have not seen it, but it is directed by Shinji Higuchi, our Shin Godzilla buddy. So I don't know, I probably will check it out at some point. He did recently do like kind of a remake of the train explosion movie. Oh man, my brain is blanking, but that was on Netflix.
Snowpiercer?
No. It's like Speed Before Speed, but it's a train.
Oh, okay.
And Sonny Chiba's in the original. But anyways, I didn't like the remake. But I'll probably check that out at some point too. 2008. And the other thing, actually, thinking about this, is Rokurota, the guy that plays Rokurota in this remake, is Hiroshi Abe, who was in Godzilla movie, but more importantly to us, he was the Japanese father in Chocolate, the Jija Yanin.
Cool.
So,
dude.
A little bit of crossover there too.
Connects.
Yep. That's all I got. I think that's all of my notes.
Someone on a podcast I was listening to the other day talked about Chocolate, and I was like, wow, that's a poll.
Yeah,
I love it. Well, if that's it, I think we will wrap up this episode and wrap up the year. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for checking out our show. If you enjoyed it, then please leave us a review on whatever you're listening to this on, like your Spotify or on the YouTube video of the episodes. You can follow us on your social medias of choice. We're at Heroes 3 Podcast, and you can shoot us an email at heroes3podcast@gmail.com. Do you have a classic of Japanese cinema that you think that we should finally watch? We've probably thought about it, but please let us know, because I'm sure we there's plenty of stuff that I'm sure we've missed. And that's gonna do it for 2025. Coming up next year, awesome. We'll probably take a week off, and then we're gonna come back with some more animated stuff to bring us back in.
Yeah. I'm really excited for next year. There's a bunch of animated stuff that I've been dying to talk about on the podcast, and I'm sure we'll be able to.
For sure. Sweet. Well, until next time, we're taking a look at some animated stuff. I'm Matthew.
I'm Marty.
I'm Carlos, and it was Bullet Train, and the remake
Bullet Train.
The remake is Bullet Train Explosion. That's why I had
Bullet Train. That's the one.
Nice. Confused myself.
All right.
I didn't look that up. It just popped up in my head.
Nice.
Very good. I'm Matthew.
I'm Marty.
I'm Carlos.
And we are the Heroes 3. Remember your training. Heroes 3 is part of the Mercado Brothers Podcast Network.